I do want to dive into now like some of your philosophies to, the violin, your approach to the violin, how you practice, and how does Serena Huang practice? Like what are some of the things that you have done in the past, or something that you're like actually changing as you get older? Like
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Um, yeah, wow, that's a big topic. I think so when I was younger, I had a teacher that he kind of practiced with me. So he built a lot of technical foundations for me, which I am like eternally grateful for because I think these foundations really affect how you play basically every note on the violin. um, so we did the Carl Flesch scale system. We went through a bunch of Sevchik books, like the Sevchik double stops and the shifting.
Love it.
Yeah, all of
Every student listening,
yeah, do it.
I
I mean,
told you
like,
so.
listen to your teacher, and they tell you to it's like, it's kind of like eating your veggies, like, no one really, like, loves doing that. Well, yeah, if you don't like
For
veggies.
anyone who's listening, my hands are in the air
Yeah.
because like,
Yeah.
but
No, I
yeah,
mean, I'm not just saying that. I mean, I truly, truly think that, especially when you're younger and you are developing, your fundamentals for playing the violin. This is gonna, it's kind of like you're building such a great foundation for your future life in music. So, um, finding the time to dedicate yourself to figuring out what an octave feels like on the violin on every position. Because on the violin, like intonation is like lifelong, right? Something you just work on all the time. But if you have a good sense of, for example, what the octave feels like in the first position versus in the eighth position, um, and learning how to shift in a way that is seamless, effortless, how to play in a way that's effortless, that is going to help you when you're older, for sure. Um, and being able to play scales, a lot of these pieces, all of the difficult passages, they're just made up of scales. They're just different scales put together, honestly. Um, so if you can play scales well, then you can play probably half of the difficult passages well too, and double stops to uh, learn how to have good hand shapes and hand forms. I remember the first time I had applied double stops to a piece was when I was playing Preludium and Allegro, that last page. That
man,
like
you're preaching to the choir.
yeah,
That's
no,
all about hand frame.
yep, all about hand frame, like, all that cadenza with all of those double stops, basically. You're playing them as single notes, but, like, your hands should not be, like, all over the place. You're playing double stops, like, you should be able to see different groups of hand shapes and stuff. So that kind of stuff, uh, practicing technique and having designated time for it, I think it's so important. So when I would say, I'm trying to think about, like, the age range where I really focused on technique. I would say 9 to 16, I would say ish. Yeah. Of course, I continued practicing technique after that too, but those were the years where I would spend maybe 2 hours, doing scales and etudes and working on my vibrato, doing vibrato exercises, all of that kind of stuff. And I went to a summer program called Encore, and this was in Ohio. I went there since I was 9 years old, and those summer programs, it feels kinda like boot camp because they have this thing, like, where we have performance class at 8 a.m. So
Ooh,
yeah, I know.
that's rough.
Ooh is right, yeah. So, 1, you can't warm up, but before you play your piece, you have to play the entire arpeggios, like, the entire circle of fifths. So,
Ooh,
you play
that's an
every
idea.
yeah, from C major through everything all the way to G major, so, like, all the keys in between. And we had to, like, perform that in front of people, so, um, that
Yeah,
was
I did that in college. I don't know if I were a professor, I don't know if I
yeah,
maybe
well,
if I
that's
don't know if I'd do that,
that's
but
the only
yeah.
time I had to do that, like, performing in front of people, but that was, when I think about my experience at Encore, that was, like, a very deep impression in my memory because it was, like, so unique to that particular, summer festival. But, anyway, my point is, like, it's, scales is very important. I guess I'll just say that. Yeah.
Okay, great. I love that. And for all the books that Serena mentioned, I'm going to leave links down in the description below. So make sure you go to the podcast notes, click on those links for you to get those copies. I'm a big believer in Sefcek. I actually love the Opus one, the very first
Yep,
book for
Opus 1. Yep, I did
Opus
that.
one, dexterity in the left hand. That's like a great left hand exercise, and it's